Welcome back, everyone, to Decoding the Flow, your podcast where creativity meets consciousness. Today's guest is an artist whose work it's impossible to scroll past. Her paintings are vibrant, joyful, and full of what many people call dopamine color. Those bold palettes that instantly boosts our mood and our creativity, let's say. She's based in Sydney, Australia, and has built a thriving creative career, not only through her paintings, but also through Instagram education and art licensing, helping artists grow their visibility online. I'm so excited to welcome Maggie McDonald to the show. Maggie, thank you so much. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. That's so nice. I'm really excited to be here and to chat all things dopamine, I guess, and share a bit more of what goes on in my studio.
Oh, I love your colorful background. It's so dopamine color. It instantly boosts my mood already. So you are joining us today from Sydney, Australia. What is the time difference? So I am in Los Angeles. You are in Sydney right now. We are recording this podcast on a Wednesday. So what time is in there? Is that another day
It is.
already?
Yes, it is already Thursday and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So, yes, so I think I forget sometimes that Australia is, I think we're often considered as like at the bottom of the earth and completely opposite to everyone else in the world. So I do work with lots of different time zones with family in different countries. So I've been used to kind of working all of that out for a while. But yes, and especially America is like the biggest difference for us from the US to Australia is a 14-hour difference. So you're like a whole day, like a half a day behind us. So yes.
Wow. Yeah. Every time I travel, it's always an adjustment. So you were starting your Thursday in your studio. How do you usually start your day? It's like painting right away, or do you have certain morning routines before you head to the studio?
So I am not a morning person. So I get up and I have my first coffee at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm not great with getting up in the mornings, very lazy. But but my favorite part of my day is getting my first coffee, giving my dog a pat, and then sitting down and just kind of like I have a new routine that I've introduced lately that I go outside and I sit in the sun for 20 minutes. So I struggle a little bit with the gray skies every now and again. So I have learned over the years that I need to have that sunlight on my face first thing in the morning. So it's go outside, sit in a chair, have my coffee, and then just have some sunlight on my face for 20 minutes. And that kind of, for me, it's a bit of a dopamine boost instantly. And it stops me from straight away picking up my phone, like I know we're all guilty of this, and starting to scroll through all of that stuff that's going on. And, like at the moment, especially, like the minute you open your phone, it's just all the doom and gloom and all those things. So I have really had to consciously put this in place for myself. And so that's been working really well for me. So I tend to do that. Then I will have my second coffee. And then I will do social media. So that's usually my thing I do around about 9 in the morning. I'll sit down and quickly have a look if there's emails, do the admin kind of side while my brain is kind of like still full of dopamine because for me, way my brain works doing that in the afternoon is like it's actually not going to happen. So I do that first thing in the morning. It's a bit of an eat the frog situation where you do the hardest thing first off, and then everything after that seems really easy. So then I'll just potter around, usually still in my pajamas. Don't tell anyone. And then me and the dog are just here in the studio and I'll start artworks and I'll kind of get my head around what I'm doing. And so I try to paint straight after that so that I can, really fuel that dopamine and load my brain up with all the good kind of feelings. In summer, I will go for a swim sometimes because it's a very hot where I live in summer and I get a lot of inspiration when I'm at the beach. And I find that I can easily tap into a flow state when I'm in the ocean, especially cold ocean water. I love cold ocean swimming. It's something that helps with my brain and it also helps with inspiration. I get all my best ideas when I'm just come out of a swim and I'm lying on the beach, just kind of relaxing. Literally, I'm lying there and I've got to get my phone because I've got to write all these things down. Like it's literally, it just comes at me so like so freely that it's definitely something that I use as a tool to, kind of get myself into that flow state.
Wow, this is fascinating. I've never heard of the swimming before. Is that something that you always knew, or how did you find out? You just realized that all your best ideas come after the ocean?
Yeah, I do. Look, I grew up in Cape Town, so we grew up in super ice cold water. There's no warm water there. It's freezing, and so you just swim in cold water. And I've always, as since I was a child, my parents loved the beach. I've always had holidays at the beach, and my happiest memories and where I feel the most relaxed and like that kind of feeling where like we say flow state, where you're just completely balanced, harmonious with everything around you, just like amazing calm state. I get that when I'm at the beach. So I'm forever not chasing that, but I know that that's how I feel when I'm at the beach. So I make sure that I'm actually kind of spending time at the beach to get that feeling. And so for me, I've always been like, I think cold water swimming has been something that I brought in to help with mental health. I have depression and I have anxiety, and one of the things that one of my psychologists suggested was cold water swimming. And I've always loved the ocean and I live close to the beach. So I was like, I might as well just give this a try. And it is absolutely something that has worked wonders for me. So it's this combination of the salt water and the sun on my skin and the cold. And it's something that is part of my little toolbox of things that I do to keep my mental health in check.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I've heard it before about the cold water. It's almost like a self-regulation. So that's exactly what you're saying. I live by the beach too. I do love my barefoot walks, and it's winter time here in Los Angeles. And last weekend, I went and jumped on the water because it was a summer day.
Yeah.
And I had exactly the same feeling, and I was floating on the water. I could not even hear the lifeguard yelling at me, kicking me out because the place wasn't safe, apparently. And it took him 10 minutes to really caught my attention. It changed something in your brain instantly. So I'm so
No,
happy that
absolutely.
you're sharing that with us. Thank you. I really want to get into the Instagram because you were a pro and I know that you teach artists, but let's just start from the beginning. So how did your journey as an artist really begin?
So, journey as an artist started with me going through some trauma. I'm going to go take you right back. And I went through some trauma, personal trauma, and I actually was going through some grief and hit that rock bottom moment and was like, life is really short and I need to do something for myself. And I had been wanting to do something creative for such a long time because I grew up in a very creative household. I play music. We always did art, but with life sometimes pushes us in different directions. The world tells us that we can't be an artist for a living. You can't be a musician for a living. The world tells us that you've got to do something that you're going to get a job and that you're going to make money so that you can have a life. And that's a fair call. I agree with that. But it is also the crusher of dreams, right? So I got to this point where I was like, you know what? Like in my soul, I felt that I needed to make a change and I needed to do something creative for myself. And I enrolled in a course. I went back to school at 37. My son had just started school that year. And I went and studied design, and it cost me so much money because it was mature age, private college. I remember paying it off. Everyone else was like, yeah, this is what I was paying it off every month. This is the payment coming off. And it was like, every time I made a little bit of money, I would pay off the course. And so we went. So started painting while I was doing this design course. And all the painting and the experience and stuff I learned while I was in school and did art, all this kind of came rushing back. And it was like this muscle memory. I could just remember all these things I did in art class. And I was just like experimenting with different paints and I was experimenting with different, kind of mediums. And it was just so exciting. And someone bought a painting. One of my friends were like, oh, I'm going to buy this painting, like a tiny painting. And then my mother-in-law commissioned an artwork for her house. And then she oh, like another one. And this person bought something. And I started sharing my journey on Instagram 10, 11 years ago. And Instagram was very new then, and it was very visual focused. There was no reels, there were no nothing. It was just a photo. That's all you put up.
I remember those days.
Those days, early in the days where you just put a photo up and that's all you needed to do. And I started just kind of, I guess, documenting for myself and sharing on Instagram very raw photos of what I was making. As I was exploring art and mediums and acrylic and all these things I was learning in my design course, I shared that on Instagram and people liked it and they started looking at it. And I kept sharing very, very authentic and very just me. Lots of photos of my feet with the artworks, just as I finished them in the studio. And that resonated with so many people on Instagram because they wanted to, Instagram was a visual platform. It was made for us to look at photos of really, really nice things. And so that's how it started. And it kind of just not ballooned, but consistently sharing my process, consistently sharing what I was doing. And as I think my journey has been like, as I'm learning, I was also sharing that with everyone around me. And so taking everyone on this journey with me. And I think also because I was using a lot of bright colors. And that's what I've always done because I'm drawn to all these beautiful bright colors and people resonate with that. Like we all, love seeing bright color and having that little bit of a dopamine hit when you open up your phone and have a look. So I think I was lucky in the respect that it was just, I got in at that time where it was just starting. And I enjoyed sharing my process. So I think that was kind of how it all started. And then I kept posting, I kept working, I kept, kind of selling a little artwork here. And so, building that business, I think we're 10, 11 years in, it'll be 10 years in May since I've actually registered my business name and full went, this is what I'm doing now. And it's been a very interesting couple of months of, looking back and, like looking back through things and seeing where I started and kind of where I am now. And it's been beautiful. I'm so grateful to be able to still be doing this at, like 10, 11 years after I started.
Yeah, and I love that's why I always ask it this question because I love see the unfoldment of their artistic journey because it's so different. Some people start very early age, some people start later. You said that you start going to school at the age of 37. That's when I started my business, even though I paint since I was basically a child. So now I'm very curious. You said that you were always drawn through colorful palettes. So did you always paint vibrant and colorful artworks, or it was something that you see evolved as well?
Think for me, I'm just literally, I don't know how to explain this, but if I look at something, the color will just jump out at me. It's like I see the whole world around me in what we call high chroma. So it literally like, I will see, like my husband will see, that's a nice flower. I'll be just like, oh my God, it's the most beautiful pink flower I've ever seen in my life. And it'll just make my brain like go, fizz. And so that's the difference. And it's very interesting to see that my son is very similar and he's very creative. He's a musician. And so he sees the world like I see in that high intensity kind of, my husband he's beautiful, but he has different strengths to that. His brain works in a different way. So I think for me, I've always kind of looked for that beautiful color. And I like going back to when I went through my trauma and I was grieving. And I actually remember just looking at paints and painting with bright colors it made me feel better. It's just a really basic thing. And it just made me feel better. It could be a really bright blue, it could be pink, whatever it might be. Blue is very calming for me. It's a very grounding color, and blue is often something that I start my artworks while looking at your beautiful artworks as well. Like that blue, always for me, blue is such a beautiful, calming, grounding color. And so I will often start an artwork with blue first because that grounds the artwork and then go from there and then end up with that beautiful bright pink on top. As we've progressed through the years, I've just leaned more into pink and pink and pink and pink, completely just morphing into my art, my whole house. Like I'm a tiny girl in a house of boys, but there are pink cushions on the couch and there's like, I have to put my touch in there. So, and I just love it because I feel like, we need as much happiness in our lives as we can with the way the world is. And if I can create art that can make people happy, and bring joy to only one person, then that's my purpose in the world.
That's beautiful. Do you consciously choose colors based on emotion, or the colors came more intuitive for you?
I think I do both. I think the colors that I choose are, this is very abstract, but it's a very abstract representation of what I see in my mind of a garden just full of flowers and full of color. And so I'm very nostalgic, and you'll see this all through my work. I always refer back to my grandmother's garden that I spent hours in when I was a child. And my grandfather and grandmother they used to win prizes for their beautiful garden in the town that they lived. And so it was just color everywhere. And so when I close my eyes, I can still see that garden. And so very abstractly, it's all those flowers, and it's the ocean, and it's, sunlight. And so it's an abstract representation of what I have in my mind. So it's, kind of that thing. And then the pink is just something that I love because it makes me happy. Pink and yellow together it's just beautiful. So yeah. So when I started, I'll just, with my still life collection, which was started at the start of last year, all those same colors are still in that. It's not abstract, but it's there. So the same colors are pulled through from the abstract florals to the still life, so that you can still kind of now see, now it's a little bit more of a realistic representation of the flowers that I always have in my head, but the same colors have come through all the way through.
Yeah, they're beautiful colors. The pink is definitely something that it highlights everything that you create, even though you use more colors like the orange, or sometimes you break the pattern with like some browns, like you can even see like behind you. I'm very curious of how do you navigate between ideas because you move from abstract shapes to still life? Is that a natural evolvement for you, or is that something that you always wanted to create and you had planned ahead?
It's absolutely comes out of the blue. I will literally get up and go, "Oh my God, I want to paint this today." So I cannot, so I have a big thing. I will share this with you because this may be of value to some other artists. In fact, that like I have always had a big thing about the fact that somebody told me very early on that you cannot be a professional artist if you don't have the one style. Okay. It has been something that has sat on my shoulder and held me back, I think, a little bit, because it's this whole big thing in the art world that you have to have this very recognizable style, and you need to paint the same artworks to be considered a professional collectible artist. I smash that, because the thing for me is, with the way that my brain works, I can't box myself in like that. I have to paint whatever it is that comes to me on that day. And I have tried so many times to stick to just one style, and it doesn't work. So what happens is I get really, really stale and I get creative block. So for me, I have now learned to allow myself to lean into whatever it is that I want to paint. And you will often find like I will start something completely new, and then I'll still kind of go back to what I was doing before, or I'll do all three styles alongside each other. And I think the thing for me is like allowing myself to honor my creativity when it comes to me is the only way that I can, I guess, stay honest. Because if I just paint what I think everyone wants me to paint, that's the quickest way that I will get creative block, and I will feel like I'm not serving my creativity. Because in the end, it's not really about what everyone else thinks. It's about what you feel and what your creativity wants you to do. So like literally the new artworks that I'm painting, I was lying on the beach after a swim, and I closed my eyes and I could see this artwork in front of, like, in my mind's eye, so clear that it was like a completely painted artwork. And I had to grab my phone, and I have Procreate on my phone, and I literally just sat quickly and with my finger had to put this down, because I was like, I'm going to lose it. Where it's going to go? And I painted it, and I came home and I painted it. And that's how the new series started. So very often I will just have, well, let's call it a whim. I will say that it's inspiration finding me where I am, and me then deciding to let it in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. But I believe now, like they were saying that, and I agree with you at some point, people want to put us in boxes, but there's also many other ways that you can still find that voice within you, not just based on the art style itself. It's about you being you, right? So it's about your stories that you tell. It's about the way that you see the world. It's about you also sharing the process of what had to happen for you to go from here to here. And that will always enhance the collectors or people who are interested in your art to actually understand what this art is coming from. So it's not just about the visual perspective that you can follow the narrative of your brand or your art style, but in everything else that you do. You are a perfect representation, because I'm sure if you go in an art show and people are going to say, you look like your paintings, because this is not just your paintings, is the pure, authentic self-expression of you that comes in many other forms, not just the painting itself.
That is absolutely, I couldn't have even like explained it as good as you've just done that, because it absolutely is that. It's really just an extension of me as a person. And I think, that it's just, I'm a multidisciplinary creative, and I've realized that I will never be able to like put myself in a box, and I don't want to. So I think it would be a disservice to everyone if I did that. So it's kind of, like, and I think as you mature as an artist and, you build a brand, it becomes easier. But if you're starting out, it's very easy to feel like, you have to only do certain things a certain way. And I think creativity has always been a thing for me. Art should be something that is, so true to you. And art is something that should be shared with everybody. It shouldn't be, I hate the whole, not hate, I dislike the idea of art being elitist. I dislike the idea of art not being accessible to everybody. I want it to be something that is accessible and it's shared with the world. So that's why I will just keep painting whatever it is that I feel like painting, because it makes me happy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so I think the most important thing for artists here is not to follow what is trending or what do you think will sell, but trying to find your own voice and how you can express that not only through your paintings per se, but in everything that you create. And I say that to you because I'm the same thing, and I go to art shows and people always say to me, you look like one of your paintings. Some people come to my house and they will say the same thing. Yes, because it is an authentic expression of myself, is not only on my paintings, in everything that I do, the way that I speak, the way that I talk, the way that I tell stories. So thank you for sharing. I am going into visibility and Instagram because I know you're a pro and you tested many different ways, sharing your process. What do most artists misunderstand about Instagram?
This is a really, really good question. Thank you. No, it's a good one. So I find most artists misunderstand, I guess, the fact that it is important to use it as a free marketing tool. The biggest stumbling block I have found when coaching and when teaching and speaking to artists that I work with is that they kick against the fact that they have to share their work on Instagram. They want to share their work on Instagram, but they don't like Instagram, so they don't want to share their work on Instagram. And then they kind of go, oh, no, but I don't feel like I don't want to have to do that. Unfortunately, the reality is that if you want to have visibility of your art to a worldwide audience, then you need to share it on Instagram, and you need to know how to work with Instagram and not feel like it's against you. So this is something that I've embraced since I started. And look, I love tech. I love creating things. I love also the side of social media that involves video editing, putting music on. I love all that stuff. So for me, like I said before, that's just another part of creating something. I love doing it because it's another thing I'm making, so I love it. I know that that's a challenge for a lot of artists because not everyone is tech savvy, and we are inherently quite shy. Like, I talk a lot, but I'm actually quite shy. And like, to put your work out there, and like we just said before, it's so personal. You're putting this artwork out there and you're like, oh my goodness, I've just put it out to the world. What's going to
Mhm.
happen? It is a hard one. I have learned to embrace Instagram for what it is. It's still now a free platform. If you were working, we always say this. So if you were, say, for instance, you didn't have social media, you were painting your artworks in your studio and you had to go and approach all these galleries, coffee shops, homeware shops to put your art in their shop. And then maybe they would put an artwork in the shop or they would put an artwork in the gallery, and they might get 10 people a day to look at your art. Like that is what you would have had to do if you didn't have Instagram. So with Instagram, you're putting up an artwork and you've got like maybe 10 people looking at it. You've got 100 people looking at it. And artists go, oh no, my reel only got 100 views. Imagine a room of 100 people every single time that you put your artwork out there. So that's the thing I think that a lot of artists struggle with, is like thinking that, it's not worth it for them to put their art out there. So yes, I think Instagram is a very powerful tool if you use it the right way, and if you don't let it cramp your creativity and completely take over everything that you do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. I work with artists as well, coaching them. It's not that they don't like Instagram, but the fear of visibility gets in the way. And they feel they're forcing the visibility, their mindset, because it needs to change in order to work. You need to see it as a platform that's free, like you said, that you are giving the opportunity for more people to see your creation. It's almost like you're doing it a favor, because an artwork that you just created, it deserves to be seen. It's not even just about the artist. It's about your art, your beautiful creation that comes within. So it's a favor. Marketing is a favor that you're doing it, offering your work, not directly, but indirect. It's an indirect tool that you have. Here's my work. This is the story behind, and see if people will resonate. If you are sharing with this mindset of giving and not taking it, you flip the switch.
It's amazing. I absolutely love that. And you're so right, because it's the thing is like, how lucky are these people to see what I've literally just created? The paint is still wet. Like, and what people forget is like, not everybody can do what we do. It's magic. And so there are all these people like going, oh my goodness, like I didn't even know I needed this artwork in my life. And so but it's like, it's such a personal thing. And we're so attached to our artworks. And sometimes I love when, like, I do this as well. You put the artwork out and you're like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then, often you kind of like go, oh, only 20 people have looked at it, because we all do this. Let's be honest. And then you kind of think to myself, but 20 people looked at that. And you know what? Sometimes I will pop an artwork up and 15 people, because, gone are the days of 3,000 people seeing your post. That does not happen. I will now, even in all honesty, sometimes on a static photo, will get like 20 likes, right? Or 20 views. But out of those 20 people, one person saw that artwork and loved it and went straight from Instagram to my website to buy that. So that is where where the magic happens with social media, an instant connection to your audience and your collectors and your buyers, right? The other thing especially with Instagram, is it's not just post and ghost. I'm sure you speak to this to your students about this. You can't just put one artwork up and go, okay, now I've done the work, I've put it up on Instagram. Now everyone's going to come to me and they're going to buy my artwork, and then go, oh, I don't understand what's going on. Instagram sucks. Nobody's looking at my stuff. That type of, it doesn't work like that. So the science says that somebody has to see something 9 times before they will actually take action. And that action is not always necessarily buying something. It will be maybe clicking through to your website, maybe having another look at it. Like, if you're anything like me, I am that person. I will put that thing in the cart on 9 different like occasions. I'll go here, I'll go, oh, but I don't know. My husband, he sees something, he's like, I like that, I can afford it, I'm buying it. Me, on the other hand, I'm the person. I will be like, oh, do I like this one better? And I will do this for 2 weeks, and then I will buy the thing. So you've got to remember, you put that artwork out there once, and nobody, like, the person who it's meant for may have not even seen it. So, and the other thing with Instagram is like, only 2% of your followers actually see your post. It's very scary to hear that, but that is the reality. So often artists feel like they are in everyone's faces. They feel like, if I post again about this artwork, people are going to think, oh my God, she's just pushing her stuff in my face. Why can't she stop posting? That is not how it works. Like, they haven't even seen it. You can just post it again. It's totally fine. So I have a little cycle with artworks, and I will keep posting them intermittently on my story. Then I'll post it again. And every single time, that artwork will have its time, but it'll eventually sell, because the right person saw it at the right time. and they might have been looking at it for 2 months, and all of a sudden that's the time they decide to put that in the cart and to buy the artwork.
Wow, I love this strategy. Thanks for sharing. Instagram changed a lot from when it started, the good old days. But now it's still good days. It's just a different approach. What are the secrets that you feel called to share with us about Instagram today with all of the changes in the platform?
Absolutely. So at the moment, I actually feel like Instagram has come back to a little bit more to what it was before. I am finding at the moment. So the three content types. I use these on in a repeating cycle. I use Reels. I will talk a bit more about that in a sec. So Reels, carousel posts, which is just your post where you have lots of photos, and then static posts, which is just one photo. So I've seen a real kind of move back to having some powerful static posts. My static one photo is performing really, really well at the moment again. And so I cycle these three types of content. With Reels, my biggest tip and the secret I've got to consistently being able to create Reels they keep going viral. They're really easy to make and they drive a lot of traffic to my website and all my channels. I don't film myself painting when I'm actually creating art. I film specifically small little canvases. I create specific artworks for my reels. And you don't see my face, I don't have to have makeup on. I can be in my pajamas, but I have a formula for creating those reels and I do them and they are more reels for little process reels. I make them really bright. They take very little time to film and I do them in batches and then I edit them in batches and I have them ready to roll out. I have not changed that formula for those reels for the last 6 years. Nothing has changed. And I keep putting them out and they keep going viral. Okay. So this is the thing that I would say, like, stop filming yourself, creating your art, because for me, that creates a block for me. If I have to put the photo, put the lamp, I've got to put the selfie ring light, then I've got to put the camera, then I've got to make sure all the lighting is right, then I've got to watch then I film myself. By the time I get to that point, I don't want to paint. I'm done. Like that's all my dopamine gone. So the reason I do the small artworks on cheapy little canvases is because that is like a specific thing that I do and it doesn't take away from my actual flow state when I'm creating artworks. Does that make sense? That's what I teach.
Yeah, I'm so curious because I've seen a lot of your reels and they are very magnificent and well made. So that secret that you're sharing, it could be the angle that you position your phone to film your process and the movements that you create, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's literally done with a phone and a tiny little desk tripod. That's it. And I think that this is something that like every artist can do because you can, and it's almost like a warm up exercise for me in the morning. So if I sit down and I film those little artworks, that's warm up. Because what I'm doing is I'm actually creating little artworks and I'm kind of warming up my own, I'm warming up my hands and my eye. And then by the time I finish filming them, then I go on and I create actual works that I like creating. So bigger artworks. So, and this is something that every artist can do because, you can actually take your art and do it on a smaller scale. You don't need a lot of equipment to be able to film this. And then I love putting some really cool music with it because I love music. And so I just love putting all my favorite songs to these little reels and people respond to that because it's happy and it's a distraction, right? So it's entertainment. So you got to know that, people want to see things that they don't have to think too hard. Right. And I keep them
Yeah.
very small, like they very rarely longer than 30 seconds. The best one's actually 9 seconds is the best performing reel that I have, which is 9 seconds, because I think our attention spans are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's what I do. So that's kind of the secret recipe for the reels. The other thing, always use trending audio if you can. I do look for my favorite songs. I'm very particular, but I look for my favorite song to see if one of my favorite songs might be trending. So, and often they are. So I will use whatever it is that is my favorite song that is trending at the moment. So that's good. Carousels are having a massive moment. They are still performing really, really well. And they're a fantastic way to tell a story. It's all about storytelling and telling everyone where have you come from, why do you do what you do, and there's a lot of really beautiful ways of doing this. We are seeing a lot of carousels created on Canva. where you have there's lots of templates. If you struggle to do this, that is the way to go. And you can use these to showcase a product. You can tell people about your studio, and it's lovely. And the secret that I have from Meta, so the thing how it all works is a carousel. If you say put 5 photos up in your carousel, Instagram will show people the first photo. If they don't swipe to the second, third, fourth, fifth photo, Instagram will keep showing them that carousel, but they will go to the second photo and the third photo. So that carousel will keep showing up in people's feeds until they have looked at all the photos in it, meaning that if you have 10 photos, someone will see that 10 times. So it's like just amazing reach. So I'm finding that my carousels are getting really, really good reach and engagement. And it's definitely something that I use to tell a little bit more of a story about myself and the products. We're also seeing a move towards people being really kind of honest and a lot of kind of origin story and where have we come from and all those things. So, and the other secret is if you add music to a carousel, it actually comes up in the Reels Explore tab alongside Reels. So if you hate doing Reels and you just want to do carousels, then this is what you do.
I love those tips and I am definitely working on those. I actually just posted a trend that I saw a few other artists and you posted yesterday about the childhood. It's the
Yes.
cutest trend ever.
Yeah, I can definitely see on Instagram that there's a real move towards who is behind what is on, like who paints the paintings, where did you come from, what is your background. And I think I've often find that people connect to people, they don't connect necessarily to products. So it's a really strong, it's not just a marketing thing for me, it really is just kind of looking back at where did I come from, and this is really interesting to share with everyone. But I think as humans we seek connection, and like as we go into this world of digital, media, like I can find like people can be really isolated and we're not in person as much. So, sharing things like that actually gives it's a really strong point for connection with everyone and then building that community around your brand and around what it is that you're creating.
Yeah. What about consistent? You said that you wake up every day, the first thing you do, it is posting on Instagram. Is there a certain number? How does it work in terms of how consistent do you need to be for Instagram based on your experience?
Yes. Now, this is a really good question because the thing for me is also consistency is absolutely the key. You can't just post on a Monday morning and then never post again for another 2 weeks and then go, oh, Instagram sucks. Doesn't work like that. Okay. So the more you post, the more the algorithm will recognize you and the more your things will be shown to people. I have a very, very standard cycle. So I will post once a day. Depending on how I'm feeling, energy levels as well. At the moment, I'm posting twice a day again because I have a lot of things to share and I feel I'm having a bit of a moment with Instagram again. So I'm in love with it again. So I'm enjoying it. When I'm a bit out of love with it, I will tend to pull back a little bit and not post as much. I do a cycle. It works like this. I do a reel, and then I do a carousel post, and I do a static post. And then I just keep recycling that around. And sometimes it would be in the morning. Sometimes it's in the evening. I do use insights to check when all my most of my followers are online, and then I tend to post those times. So you get that with your professional account, you get your dashboard, and it shows you exactly when everyone's online, and then you kind of tend to post when that is. Obviously, having done this for 10 years, I know exactly where my audience hangs out. I know what they like, and I keep just doing what I know they like as well. So you don't keep reinventing the wheel every time. You just consistently post the content that you know works and you stay kind of on that, I guess, strategic cycle, if that makes sense. At the moment, I'm posting on the weekends because I have started something called, it's like a dopamine diary. It's something that gave me all the things that made me happy this week. And I've put that in. I create that, take those photos during the week. I create that post on the Friday and I have it scheduled so I don't have to actually post on the weekend, because weekends for me are family time. I spend it at the beach or whatever it might be. And it's an important thing for me to make sure that my audience knows that Maggie doesn't really usually post on the weekends. This is what she does, So my tip to artists who are starting out, who are struggling with Instagram and that visibility thing, is if you can only post 3 times a week, or you only want to post, you post at the same time those 3 times of the week. If you have identified your audience is online Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning, you post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you do that consistently, because even that will help your presence on Instagram and the algorithm to pick up that you are serious and that you are, kind of consistently putting out content for your audience.
I love that. And since we're talking about visibility, I hear a lot of artists with this fear of visibility. Do you think an artist to grow on Instagram without showing their face?
Oh, do you know, this is a really good question. So I think visibility comes in two ways. It's either your art is visible, you're, creating visibility for just your work, because there are a lot of artists that only create visibility just for their work, or you're creating a brand where you're creating a community. So it's, you can, and or you're doing both. You kind of like, it's a hybrid. For me, I don't mind showing my face, because I don't show my face all done up with makeup. I'm literally in my painting clothes with normally no shoes on. So if you're comfortable doing that, then you by all means do that, because it shows, the authenticity and the face behind the brand. I have a very good friend who is an artist, and she doesn't have a massive following on Instagram, but she creates videos where she never shows her face. She does a series of artworks about books, based on books that she reads. So she's an author as well, and she covers her face with books, and that's her thing. And that's her brand, because her artworks have the books in them. So she does these beautiful videos where she walks past the artworks and you can never see her face. She very rarely will show her face. So she's been doing this for 12, 13 years. She's figured out a way of sharing and being very visible on social media and connecting with her collectors without actually showing her face. Just like I have created a way of showing reels and doing reels without having to show my face and having to do the painting. So I feel like if you are somebody who you don't like showing your face, then find a way of doing it. There are artists who will find, very often it's a popular one. She Again, this same artist, she will do the art pose, but she'll put the artwork across her face. You will not see her face. So she's there, she's holding the artwork, but is focusing on the artwork instead. So I would definitely say, research some artworks, artists that you follow. Have a bit of a look at how they are doing things, maybe successful artists or people that you look up to. See how they do this and navigate this, and then cultivate yourself your own kind of way of maybe taking some inspiration, translating that into something that you can use in your own social media visibility.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Something that you said, stay with me, which it relates to, it depends if you just want visibility through your work or if you're building a community, or you can be doing both, which I believe it's something that both of us does. And I believe if you're building a community, then yes, you do need to show your face because that's what people will resonate. It's with your energy, not just the artwork itself. But you don't necessarily need to show your face if you're only looking for visibility through your work. I've seen a lot of people who find their own kind of voice, like their own way. They just keep repeating. They found their own code. They keep repeating. They call it a series of. They just do exactly the same way all of the reels, and it just works because they figure it out. So maybe we can all just start testing what works for us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that's the thing. We'll always say throw it, whatever you can against the wall. If it doesn't stick, then you don't do it again. But if it works, it works. And you just keep repeating that, because that takes the stress out of constantly having to jump on trends and figure new things out. Like, that is exhausting. And I actually don't do that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for all these incredible tips on Instagram and how to grow on Instagram. Let's move a little bit about art licensing because I know there's something that you work with art licensing as well. What are some experiences that you have or some tips that you can share with us about art licensing in case some artists here wanted to learn more about it?
Yes, this is something I love doing as well. So, licensing is a very big part of my business, and like I've got quite a steady stream of income through that. So, licensing, for those who don't know, is basically just when you actually give a company the license to reproduce your artwork on either as prints or on products. So, on clothing, on fashion, on stationery. I've done quite a few amazing collaborations over the years, some small ones, some bigger ones. I actually really love seeing my art on products. It's something that I've always loved. So
Yeah.
it's very cool. Yeah. So with art licensing, the main kind of things to, I guess, remember is that you, as an artist, will always retain the rights of your artwork. You don't actually, like, they license the artwork from you at a fee, and they're allowed to use it, but the artwork will always be your artwork. So you don't lose the rights. So and there are lots of ins and outs with the way to structure these types of licensing deals. I've learned over the years as well with, kind of, obviously not every single deal goes amazingly well. So as you do these things, you learn some tips and tricks. The most important thing with licensing is also always to make sure that if you are going to license your art, you need to make sure that it is high resolution. So what I do in this instance is, like, I will have an artwork captured by a professional art capturing service. That could be a professional photographer that does this. And we're talking high res, like super, super, like it is can be reproduced to whatever scale. Because the last thing you want is for someone to buy a license or an artwork from you to license, and they go to print it on a piece of fabric and it is the wrong resolution, it's bad coloring, it's pixelated. So that's something that's, like, really important to do. So it's very important to invest in getting those files captured by someone who knows exactly how to do that. Licensing kind of works in two ways. You can either do flat fee licensing, where they pay you a flat fee for the use of your artwork, and that's an upfront payment, or you can work on a royalty or a hybrid model. I do all of them. The other thing I found that's really helpful is to have a licensing library available on your website. So I actually have quite a few artworks that I have in my library that have been captured. I have them available as licensed artworks on my website as a product category. People can literally, like, companies can go onto my website and purchase the license on the spot, and they then get sent through contract and high res file afterwards. This makes it really easy for people to be able to, kind of buy a license or an artwork to use. A lot of smaller businesses will sometimes do that, just kind of buy the license off my website. The other thing is then I'm getting collaborations, and I have companies asking me for exclusives. So I will create an artwork exclusively for them. I will sell them the rights and the license to them to only use that. And that's kind of like a project that I work on, and that's done and quoted project to project. So I'm working on a really exciting one at the moment. So that's kind of like, I've just had to refresh all of that stuff again. It's a really interesting thing. In Australia, we are super dopamine dressing. There are so many brands here that literally just, like, print artists designs on an artwork, on clothing, on tablecloths, on everything, right? So if you come in the shops here with any store, there's an artist's work on something. So it is a very exciting and lucrative business for us here. And I mainly work with Australian companies at the moment for kind of like doing that dopamine kind of dressing, dopamine homewares. So yeah, so it's really, really cool. The other thing to remember is that you don't have to wait to be approached by a company. A lot of companies will have down the bottom of their website a artist submission section. You can just go in there and just say, "Hey, this is, my art. If you were ever looking for someone, I think we would be a really good fit." The other option is to follow brands on Instagram. A lot of the time, they will do a competition for new artists to print products, or you can just start a kind of, relationship with a brand back and forth. And then I have a couple of times just gone in the DMs and gone, really love your products. If you were ever looking for someone, I would be, I think would be a really, really good fit. Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a maybe, sometimes it's a we're not looking for anyone right now, but we will put you on file. So, that's kind of the way that my licensing works. Most of my collaborations come to me through Instagram mainly. And then the rest will be every now and again when I have space in my calendar, then I will go out and I will approach some brands. But most of the time it's quite an organic process.
I love that. Oh, so many tips. I hope you are listening and write everything down. If not, you have to come back to this episode because Maggie is just spelling all of her secrets, incredible ones for any artists who are looking to upgrade their portfolio and grow on Instagram. You're so generous. I'm so happy that you're sharing all of this. I am taking notes, to be honest. Very, very good. I have one more question about art licensing and Instagram. Do you use Instagram as your main source to bring people to your website, or do you have any other outlet?
That's a very, very good question. So I have so I mainly drive through Instagram, but I also make sure that I'm linking whenever I'm driving on Instagram to my website. So obviously I have a website or an Etsy shop or whatever it might be that you have. I also use email to send out emails about whatever it might be that I'm, kind of have used email signups over the years, which is really good. So created what we call a lead magnet and then offer the lead magnet to whoever. It could be like a free ebook. It could be a free printable calendar, whatever it might be. And then you get your audience to sign up through your mail, whatever it is. I use MailChimp still. And then you collect these kind of like email subscribers over the years. And we found very often when things happen in Instagram, when the views are very low and things change and algorithm changes, you've still got that email list, right? So it's been very important all these years to make sure that Instagram is not the only way that I reach my audience. Like you have your audience on Instagram, but if you can bring them over and get their email addresses and capture that, that is, kind of a much better way of actually then having access to whoever is really, kind of interested in your journey, in your collectors and people who are interested in working with you. So I have been building that list for the 10 years, like started that straight away when I started my business. So it's been building. And that's been in times where I guess the Instagram has done what it does every now and again, and it kind of throws a wobbly and views are low and there's no traffic and all those things, then you have always got that backup. Because, Instagram, like I said, is a free platform. We don't really own everything on there. And so to be able to have something as a backup is very, very important. The other thing I do is I have a Facebook page that is connected to the Instagram, like we all do, I think. I don't love Facebook. Facebook for me is more it's more a local. I find Facebook's very interesting. It's more like for local customers and it's an older demographic, which is fair enough because I'm an older demographic on Facebook. I always laugh. It sounds like, no, Facebook is for old people. And he's 17. I'm like, okay, thanks. That's lovely. And so on Facebook, every now and again, I will run paid ads. I have created like a little ad and I use this ad with some beautiful images of my work. I find that stock photos don't really work very well. Things where maybe my face is in it or it's in my studio, they seem to do quite well. I am very conservative with my spending on ads. I track them quite strictly. And I will literally do like $5 or $8, maybe 10 days, not even sometimes 10 days. I will sometimes run something from a Thursday to a Sunday over the weekend, and it'll be like a print sale or like these are my prints. And I track exactly how many clicks I get to my website. And I track all the metrics so that I make sure I get some return on investment on that. So I'm very conservative in my spending with ads because obviously, we all want as much organic traffic as we can. But the way the world is and the way that Meta does run, we do have to maybe sometimes invest in a little bit. You would be doing this if you were engaging a marketing agency to do something for you, you would be paying them to do that. It's exactly the same thing. And it's not like, oh no, I'm paying Meta money, like I shouldn't be paying for ads. You absolutely should be paying for ads because it is a business. And this is exactly what you'd be doing if you had to pay a marketing agency for you. Plus, you can control it yourself. And I kind of just taught myself by watching lots of YouTube videos and figuring it out. But there are some amazing free resources and courses all over the internet for you to learn how to do it. So definitely something that I invest in. I don't advertise on Instagram though. I have a thing about it. So I will Instagram I will do it on Facebook because I shop on Facebook, but I won't do it on Instagram because for me it feels inauthentic to do it on Instagram.
Mm.
Instagram for me is my sacred little thing that I've built up, and I want to keep that for my community, and I want to keep that a place where I share what I'm doing. I don't want to be pushing, ads in everyone's face. So that's how I kind of separate the two. But so, yeah, so it's like a three-pronged approach of, kind of a little bit of paid ads, definitely that email list, very important. And then also using the direct traffic from Instagram to my website, which is also still something that, kind of like I can literally put something up with a tagged product, and I can sit and watch Shopify and see how many people click on that thing and go onto my website. I love all the stats. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so it's very strategic. It's not just let's just pop it up and see what happens. There is a lot of
Yeah.
strategy behind it. And it's
Yeah.
definitely, running it as a business and looking at marketing and looking at spending and all those things.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that because one of the first things that I say to my clients, to everyone who comes and asks me questions about our business, you have to treat it as a business because it is a business. And also another thing that I love that you mentioned that it's one of my main things that I do for my business, which is email. I start building my email when I used to do art fairs and I build up and I've been sending weekly emails every single Thursday for almost 8 years now. And when I mentioned this to artists, because I see a lot of artists, especially the local artists who are doing art fairs, and I tell them, how many emails did you collect? This matters more than the art sales itself because you need to start building. I'm so happy that you mentioned in all of your tactics to have that lead magnet. So maybe I will do another episode just talking about email because it's my favorite thing to talk about it too, among it a lot of other subjects too. I have one more question for you. We can talk about it all day long. Let's
Which
see if in an artist listening today, it feels stuck. What would you want them to hear from you?
well, this is a very, very good question. Again, lots of good questions here.
Thank you.
I would say if you're feeling stuck, and I do often feel stuck, I get super overwhelmed with all my ideas sometimes, and I just freeze. And I go sit on the couch and I'm just like, even now after all these years, I still get stuck sometimes.
We
I
all
think, yeah, I think
We
we
should
all
we
do.
should normalize feeling stuck
Eh,
because we all do. It's from the stuckness that we move forward.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? If you're feeling stuck, the biggest thing that I can do, if like I do for myself, is this: is I will completely step back. I will just go, okay, that's enough. Like you just, because what you're doing is then you're being hard on yourself because you can't figure it out, and you feel like, oh, why can't I just move forward? I'm like this. It's like we call that the dirty distress, right? You add to all this extra stuff. I step back. I will have a break. I will just be like, right, that's it. I will go and have a coffee date with my art bestie who lives close to me. We will go and have a little date. We will go to an art gallery somewhere, have some coffee, and we'll look at other people's work. We'll step out of our little bubble because we can be a little bit like this. And it's so important. Everything's so heavy sometimes. We step out. I'll go for a swim. Like I said before, that's something that just fixes my brain straight away. I will go and buy myself some fresh flowers. This is my big thing. I buy some flowers if I can afford it. And I go and like do something for myself, and I do that, and I come back and I'll have the flowers. The other thing I will say is also stay off social media if you're feeling like this, because the worst thing for me is when I feel like this is I open social media and I'm seeing all these artists. This one's having an exhibition in this place. This one's selling with this gallery. This one's just created this product. And even though I've done all those things, I feel like I'm not good enough because I'm not at that moment. I don't feel good enough. And I don't feel
Mhm.
like achieving anything because I'm sitting on the couch, frozen, paralyzed, feeling
Yeah.
sorry for myself. So I stay off social media. I just have a complete break from it. The other thing I do, if it's more of a creative type of a block, is I will very often paint with my left hand because I can't overthink it. I will try a completely different medium. I'll go and get myself some like watercolor, or I'll, get some clay or whatever it might be. I've just bought like packets and packets of air dry clay because I'm like, I love doing things with my hands as well. So that's kind of like the other tip. If you're feeling creatively stuck in like the actual physical painting bit, Sometimes it's really good to just stop what you're doing, you have a little break, shake it out, and then use a completely different medium. That is something that has really worked for me. I've painted whole artworks. I painted a whole series with my left hand at the end of
Wow.
because I was so creatively blocked and I was very burnt out. And I was just like, I can't, like, I feel like everything I'm trying to do is just not working. And so I basically just went, right, you know what? I'm going to paint with my left hand. And it just came, just unstuck me. So these are the kind of things that, yeah, that I can give you advice on. And you know what? Sometimes it's just good to have a break, like just have a break, just, you know, be kind to yourself. I feel like we tend to feel like we have to constantly be creating. You can't just create without sometimes having to step back and recharge and, protect your creativity because it's so sacred. We have
Yeah.
to protect it. Like you cannot just keep pushing it and pushing it. At some point it's going to go, I've had enough. You need to take a step back. And so I think sometimes that's a sign when you're starting to feel like that. I think that's sometimes our creativity telling us to take a step back and to kind of to take a breath.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these are such great ideas. I'm definitely implementing the left hand painting for sure. Another thing, since you mentioned, because we all go into this phase that we need to avoid Instagram at some point because it becomes too much. One thing that I found that helped me, because maybe if you're on your couch feeling stuck and you don't want to go on Instagram, but you also don't want to do anything else, if you just keep feeling this urge of needing to scroll, go to Pinterest and just
Oh,
scroll
yes.
there. The
Love.
best time that you would spend scrolling because you won't need to compare yourself with anything, and all you're going to see is your curation of more inspiration for you.
Mine is literally Pinterest. I open Pinterest and it's just pink. And I love it. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. And so just looking at everything on there. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
That is amazing. So, one last question before we close. So, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Another amazing question. I think I would tell myself to not, I guess, be so hard on myself. I think, and to, like I was literally with this thing I did yesterday with the photos of me as a baby. I look at that little girl, and you look at that little girl and you think, what would you say to her and all her dreams and everything, say to her that, like, life is a gift. And I think to believe in yourself more. Like I struggle with this some from time to time. And you kind of look back at that little girl and being here now and go, like, just believe in yourself and dream big. That's what I would say. Keep dreaming big. Because life is so exciting. It can be so exciting when we open ourselves up to everything that is there, and celebrate the wins. Absolutely celebrate the wins. Take the time to look back at everything that you have achieved. I tend to not do that very often. I'm very much, okay, cool, that was amazing. That we've done that now. Let's go on. Because it's this thing of like not wanting to take your foot off the petrol because you're worried that the momentum will fade. So I have to really give myself a talking to sometimes and go, hang on a minute, just take a breath and see how far you've come. And then you can, like sit in that for a little bit so that you can, yeah, to tell that little girl, see where we are now. Like, I'm dreaming of an artist and now, this is what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours. Maggie, where people can find you and follow your work?
So you can mainly find me on Instagram. I'm always hanging out there, just, kind of sharing life updates and dogs in the studio and whatever's happening. So that's where they can find me. And my website is just maggiemcdonald.com. You can find me on there. And yeah, so kind of, artists connect with me for coaching. I do lots of different things. I wear lots of hats. But yeah, so that's kind of where I hang out and just love sharing what I do with everyone.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us. I'll make sure to add all of your information in the show notes for people to follow your beautiful journey. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Have a good one.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Such a lovely chat.
Absolutely. Bye.